Well, I mean, he could get lucky, and that people could agree to, significant tax increase, and that's a possibility.
Not that I have anything to say.
Right, but I think you see what I'm getting at, which is that, they may, if they take the House, the Republicans, they could get in a situation where they can essentially, even though they're in the majority, still be the minority party with just a bigger bullhorn. Send over legislation that they, force him to either come out, take a stance on it, possibly veto, but certainly force the Senate to swat it down. Things on illegal immigration, tax slashing measures, things like that, and the whole way through, they won't have to take responsibility for the budget ultimately.
Let's switch gears a little bit and take a look at the Senate seats. I think this one's a foregone conclusion. I know it's still within the margin of error. I don't see how Buck loses this one. Am I wrong on this?
Oh, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion at this stage. No, I don't. I mean, I think that he's got momentum, and I mean, if you'd said, 8 months ago that this is the way things would have turned out, I don't know that anyone would have believed that. So
everyone would have thought Jane Norton would have gotten the nod.
Right.
She didn't. It's a Tea Party year.
Right.
But I still have a good sense that Buck pulls this one out.
I think that very well could be the outcome, but I just don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
Fair. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion either, but I think there's a couple things working to Buck's advantage now as we head down the home stretch. One is that obviously he won. He rode the Tea Party wave without. I know the Bennett people are trying to paint him as a Tea Party guy, but he's not Sharon Angle. He's not Rand Paul. Right. He's certainly not Christine O'Donnell. And, Bennett may have gone a bit too far with that first ad, allowed people to say, hey, you took him out of context and sort of deflated his own argument trying to paint Ken Buck as a crazy person. The other thing about it is Ken Buck's cleaned up his message. All those recorded statements by the Democratic tracker, if you saw the debate Saturday night out in Grand Junction at Club 20, Ken Buck was on his game. He was polished. When he debated Jane Norton at our studio during the primary, he was lackadaisical. He didn't have anything committed to memory. He didn't have a strong closing statement. He was just there going through the motions. This was a strong, comfortable Ken Buck in a debate setting. The last thing he's got going for him, as I see it, is that Michael Bennett, as an incumbent Democrat, is already, like a lot of incumbent Democrats, starting to run away from his message. When you come to Jesus on spending in the closing days of a campaign, and after, you vote for a stimulus, you vote for health care. There's not a Democrat in the country right now running saying, look, we passed health care.
Isn't that amazing?
And that makes sense politically.
Harry Reid put out an ad back in April saying we got health care done.
Right.
Since then, not a single Democrat has taken an ounce of credit for the takeover of health care. Not a single one. And you even hear Bennett talking about the $13 billion we've spent and, quote, nothing to show for it. It's amazing. It's a truism that there are no tax and spend candidates. There's no candidate that comes out there and says, you know what, I'm for tax increases.
And granted,
they're all fiscal conservatives.
I don't ever remember there being candidates like that.
Exactly.
Though. I mean,
it's a hard environment for Democrats to run in, no doubt about it. But the thing about the Bennett, he's run a strong campaign. He's certainly well funded, but he's running, it seems at this point, to try and be perfect. And you can't be perfect. A Democrat can't be perfect. When you're walking that tightrope, dancing, well, I sort of support this, but I don't support, I think I voted for the stimulus. I think it was great. It saved us, but it didn't, you're walking a tightrope. And it's
also a bit of a Dan Mays problem with Bennett. And I mean it this way, that neither one of them has ever run in a race before. Bennett is the luckiest United States Senator ever. He was a superintendent. The president said, I like him. The governor said, okay, and up he went. He's never run a school board race. He's never been,
That's true,
been a town
although,
scout. And let me finish this thought. Whereas, there are some politicians that have a connection. He comes across as an aloof Ivy League guy. I think that helps Allard. When it comes to Mays, he just has no experience and he collapsed. Allard, Wayne Allard was a down-to-earth kind of guy.
Right.
But Dan Mays and both Bennett, they've never done this. This is their first time at the dance.
It is. There's truth in that, except that I would just say that Bennett has been around the system. Mays can truly say he's an outsider.
Right.
Now, people may ask, is that a good thing? But he can say it. There's no question that Mays is an outsider.
And the people who are still supporting Mays, they might not care if he has any experience or been around the system. They might not care if you can even run the system. They just want someone to go in and tear the system down. With Michael Bennett, though, I mean, I got to say, I've spent a little bit of time with him. In the closing days of the primary, went on a bus ride with him, and it was me and him in a bus, and we were just hanging out for 6 hours. He was dog-tired. He stayed up all night. And it was interesting because it was the first time I'd actually seen him just kind of as a regular guy. You know, and as a regular guy, he's a nice guy, amiable, interesting. We spent some time together, and I said, you know, this is a normal, decent, easygoing, thoughtful person. And sometimes that doesn't come across. You're right, he's not a natural campaigner. He doesn't have the politician's charisma that some people have and some people don't have. But, you know, he's not
but if that
aloof and out of it. I think he's being so carefully managed by so many establishment Democratic types out of D.C. that, you know, you run this incumbent playbook, and you're maybe missing the point that this year, you know, being an incumbent makes you the underdog.
Right. And also this year, the personal touch to be a folksy kind of guy is an important thing. All right, we've got less than 2 minutes left. Give me the upset. What is the thing that we're not paying attention to because we're too busy watching these two fights, the big ones? What's a big one that's brewing underneath? Okay,
just off the top of my head, there is a little-known proposition that just barely made the ballot called Prop 102, and long and short of it is it would mean that low-level criminals, people charged with very low-level offenses, would have to post bond. Okay, so it's being sold as a anti-crime, safe streets thing.
But really, it was the bond
it's
guys,
the bail bondsman pushing it so to get more money. All the DAs, the bar, everybody's come out against it.
Cops and DAs. So
exactly.
the prosecutors and the police officers say this is a bad deal. We don't want it.
I could see that one passing. And it will cost. It will now cost local jails several $1 million.
30 seconds.
Real quick, I'd say Ryan Frazier in District 7. Colorado's a bellwether. District 7 is Colorado's bellwether. The demographics are roughly split. It's been a Democratic district. Ed Perlmutter thought he was safe. Here comes Ryan Frazier. If Ryan Frazier wins there, what we're looking at is not just a small wave election. We're looking at a huge wave election. We're looking at Republicans probably winning back both houses in Congress.
He's getting me all tingly just saying that. Eli, thank you. Tim, thank you. And thank you for spending some time with me. Listen for me late nights on 850 KOA. Check out the Independence Institute. That's independenceinstitute.org. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.